Thank you for listening. If you want to know more about us and our services, please visit our website at www.wsk9co.com.
Today on our podcast, we're going to talk about W is for willing and how to get your dog to work with you while you're training. So we just have some idea that, and we're just going to start sharing. Do you want to start with your first
idea? I guess just to start out, different dogs are more willing to do things in different ways. So it's about finding what your dog likes to do. So let's talk about reward-based type stuff. I'd say most dogs are food motivated, but not all dogs. So if your dog is not food motivated, we have to think outside that box. One of my dogs is definitely more toy oriented. So his rewards for being is play and getting to play with the toys. And then I have one that is completely food motivated and one that just wants to make me happy. So different things for different dogs. Every dog is unique. So it's going to be finding what makes your dog tick. And sometimes that is pressure. You're going to give your dog pressure, and the reward is going to be releasing that pressure. That can be, some dogs are going to have to go to that far extent. Most dogs, not really. I don't know, Melissa, what do you think?
I think another way to keep your dog willing would be to add variety to your training. And for Cooper especially, it helps to add play to training. So some of her best training is done while we're out on a run or we're out on a hike or camping. We'll do little mini training sessions of something, but she's engaged and she's happy, and just adding that variety. She's also, I feel like she's more in her element when we're out up in the mountains. She relaxes more and she is less on guard than she is in the city. And so I can get a lot more done when she's in that element, but adding training to different things, doing different things every day. It's easy to get into the routine of, we're going to wake up and we're going to go on a walk, and that's our training for the day. But that can get dull and boring, and your dog can just check out and go through the motions of it, but not stay engaged.
I think you can notice that a lot, which is true with my own dog. If you ask him to do the same things all the time, like for a treat, say, so you go get the cookie jar and then your dog does all the tricks that you do right in a row, in the same order, because you ask him to do the same thing every time that you give him a cookie, So you want them to be thinking, guessing, what do you want me to do if when you have the treat jar to try and that helps with new behaviors, not just sit, lie down, roll over, shake, go to the back door, go give someone a kiss or whatever, you get all your routine all in one time. Another thing I think is people, when you're training and your dog isn't doing what you want, you can get really frustrated and sometimes you can be angry at the situation and not appropriately correct the dog. So when I say that, you want to give a correction for them, not doing what you want at the time that it happens. So if you're asking them to sit and they don't sit right away, then you might want to give pressure with the leash to get them to sit. But if you just start, freaking out, why won't you sit? You knew this yesterday. It can be counterproductive to your training sessions. You have to correct for the correct behavior with the correct timing in order to move forward. And if you're correcting inappropriately, your dog will not understand what you want, and it makes them shut off their brain and they just check out of the training, and then you can't move forward at all. So you have to be careful to not discourage your dog with weird corrections too much so that they check out. Do you have anything you want to add more to that?
Yeah, just made me think. So we need to be in the right state of mind. So what I'm saying by that is if you're frustrated by your dog not sitting, maybe that's not the right time to work your dog on that. You need to be just as willing and as excited as you want them to be to match their energy level. So even if that means that you're just frustrated that they're not sitting, obviously make them do one sit and then move on and do something else. But that being said, that does not give anybody an excuse not to train. Just make sure it's an hour later after you've sat down and watched TV for half an hour, and so you're not as anxious. What's that?
Yeah, so I actually had a training session last week, and they just got off work, and the wife was like super tense the entire time, and the dog was acting so weird with her anytime she tried to work with him. And we were going, and I just kind of asked her, like, is everything okay? Because this was not her normal demeanor. And she's like, I just had a really crappy day at work. I have a headache. I'm not in the mood. And I was like, well, let's kind of calm down. Let's go outside for a little bit. And I was like, have you listened to some music while we go for a walk together? So she put in one earbud of relaxing music. She calmed down, and the dog immediately clicked in and was in sync with us. And it was just amazing that dogs call us out on stuff, and we can't lie to our dogs. And if we're in a bad mood or if we're frustrated, we need to be willing to acknowledge that with us and kind of come back to base, be present, because that's unfair to our dogs to get mad at them for not working when we're not really working ourselves, if that makes sense.
I think changing the environment, like you were saying, Melissa, can be really helpful. And also, if you don't use it correctly, can also create frustration and not unwillingness to do things. For example, if you haven't taught your dog to sit and lie down in your house or in your yard, and then you go to the park and you expect them to do that, and you're getting frustrated and angry and trying to train with them, they won't understand what's going on because you haven't set like the base of the expectations and behaviors that you're trying to get. And so I think you have to use environments to keep it challenging, to challenge your dog, but you don't want to change the environment too soon before they're ready, because if there's lots of distractions, it's going to take away from the training because they won't be able to pay attention to you. They'll want to pay attention to everything else that's out there.
Absolutely. That makes me also think of that we do need to train to real life. So yes, take your time, start at home, get that, whatever that behavior is that you're really looking for, and then get out and do it. Like, get out. Don't just expect your dog to just know out and about. You, like, it's changing the picture. You have to work that from square one. If you know we're going to go to the park and do it, it's such a different picture for your dog. But get out and do it. If you're a hiker, make sure that that behavior your dog knows, get out and work it out hiking. If you're not a hiker but you like to go to the dog park, make sure that we slowly get there, but we do get there.
And that just makes me think your dog's not going to be willing to work for you if you continually set them up to fail. And it's not bad to start slow. So, like, if your dog has a hard time out on walks and is really reactive, go to the end of your driveway. That's a success. Your dog's going to learn from that and is going to be more willing to work for you going around the block rather than pulling them when they're in a bad state of mind just to get around the block when they're barking at everything and out of sync.
And if you do have a failure day that you push it too far, don't get discouraged. Just tomorrow, instead of going around the block, just go back to the end of the driveway if going around the block was not successful. Just take a step back if you find that you have pushed your dog too far.
I was just thinking that a big factor in this also can be the energy level of your dog. I've personally had dogs that have really high energy levels in the past, and I have a dog that has a really low energy level now. I have to start like with the training when I come home, when he's excited, because he'll get too tired, and then he won't want to do anything. Whereas other dogs that I've had, like my dog Boston, I would have to take him on a walk first to release some of his energy, to get his mind in a place where he could pay attention to me. And so I think knowing your dog's energy and behavior and how they work best can help you with training also, because every dog is different, and part of training is communicating with your own personal dog. So knowing them can help with that also.
Absolutely. And that just made me think of back to the original that we started with, have fun trying to figure out what it is that makes your dog excited. There are some dogs that just are not. I actually have a client right now that this dog really does not care about food. Like, could not care less about food. Even toys are really not his thing. Like, he'll play with toys, but they're not exciting enough for them to be a reward. So we have to use a lot of pressure, and we have to use a lot of excited puppy parties. It's a lot more about our energy and having fun with it, because that's the only way he really gets excited. He's just not a very excitable dog. But have fun with it. Think outside of that box. Just because every dog show that you've ever seen ever is all positive reinforcement and treat-based, that does not mean that is the only way to train. Have fun with it. Get out there and figure out what it is that does make your dog excited.
Yeah, when we were first training Cooper, I was so excited. I got the treats, and I was like, okay, she's going to be food motivated. I already put that on her. But she doesn't really care about treats. She almost eats them to make us happy in a way. Like, if we just give her a treat, she'll kind of put it down and maybe save it for later. But she very rarely will just beg. She never begs for treats. But what she loves is our praise and us telling her she did a good job. She gets more excited over if I'm kind of being more focused with training her and, oh, good girl, like, you did it. Or just saying yes, she is more excited and more willing to work more. Treats, she'll clock out. She gets done with it. But it was so interesting to find that, oh, she really just likes to work. She doesn't really care about what reward we give her. She enjoys the process.
It's funny. I was just thinking that. So I have one dog that's her too. She just really wants to please you. It doesn't matter what it is. But actually, I think she's my hardest dog to work with. I think she's the funnest, and she catches on to things faster than any of my other ones. But it's really hard to stop her. Like, it's hard to stop her because she gets so into it and so, like, almost to the point that you're like, could you please slow down? You're not paying attention to me anymore because you're so excited. You're going to figure out whatever it is that you need to do. So that's also another good point, is that if you want your dog to be willing to keep being willing, there is a time that you have to know when to stop.
Yeah, for Cooper, we have to give her a release word for working and training. So we tell her that'll do. And yes, we got it from Babe. So we'll tell her, okay, that'll do when we're done working, or she will keep and she will intensify. Okay, you want me to do this? You want me to do this? But that'll do. Giving her permission to relax, to play. And then she's more willing next time when she knows that she can stop.
What do you guys think is the most challenging thing that you've worked with your own dog or another dog that has to do with them being willing to do what you were asking them at a particular time?
I would really say all of mine are fairly easy once I figured out what it was that they wanted for a reward. That dog that I was just talking about a few minutes ago, the one that is not really excited, I think he's the hardest dog I've ever had to work with. And it's not that he's dumb. He's really actually a very intelligent dog. It's really hard once, like, treats are out, toys are out. He's really not that excited anyways. I think thinking outside of the box that much is really hard, especially for owners to do, because they want their dog to be excited to work, and they want their dog to be excited over treats and excited over toys. And it's really, really hard, especially if they're not willing to, like, play with you. And it's not that this dog doesn't want to play. He really does love to play. He just does not care that that's his reward for whatever he's doing. I also think it's really hard to tell people that it's okay to step away. It's okay to take a break. And also, most dogs, even my own dogs, I never work them for longer than 10 minutes because I get bored, so I know they get bored, and they're not going to be willing to work with me if I'm bored with it. And a lot of people don't quite grasp that, especially if they're excited and it's new and it's their first puppy or whatever. They're like, I don't get it. You only want me to work them 10 minutes twice a day. Like, I want to be with them all the time. I want to do everything with them, and it's really hard to know when to take a step back.
I think the hardest dog for me to work with was a dog that had no relationship with the family. The family didn't like her at all, really. Like, it was kind of just like they felt obligated that they needed a dog. And then she started misbehaving, and so they're like, okay, we'll train her. And the dog just wasn't attached to them. And so that was really hard, that the dog wasn't really willing to work for them at that time. So their assignment was to play. And I'm like, I want you to play with your dog. And then once that relationship was there, and then they're like, oh, we actually really like this dog, and a bond was created. But without that bond, it was quite challenging because the dog wasn't really treat motivated. And so it was like, okay, let's all get excited about it. But once that excitement was there, then it got a lot better.
I think that's a really good point too, is that before you get a dog, think about what it is that you want them to be like, and how you want to do the training process, because there are going to be some dogs. I mean, I have yet to meet a lab that's not food motivated. So if that's the way you want to train, get a lab. But that being said, my Papillon Rambo he's never been food motivated. In fact, I'm that person, and a lot of times I had to put stuff in his food because he won't eat. And a lot of people they just don't understand that. They're like, I don't understand why you don't want treats. So that's something also to think about before you get a dog, is how you want that training process to happen.
And also, I think, like you say, Michelle, the biggest thing that people could do to help their training be easier would be to take into consideration the breed of the dog and how the dog learns. Because I think that there's different attitudes of people towards training. Like, some people want to give their dog a treat and have it be trained. Some people want to say good boy to the dog and that's the treat, good boy. And so it's hard to train a dog that's not as good at responding to that good boy, and then that's where a lot of frustration comes.
Absolutely. If you already have a dog, though, don't get discouraged. We're not telling you, oh, get rid of that dog and get another dog. Just do your research. And even if you have a mixed breed dog, there's definitely ways to figure out roughly what they are, and see what makes them tick. Dogs, like herding dogs, are going to probably be more toy motivated because they want to chase something. Sporting dogs are definitely more food motivated. I'm not really 100% sure what you do for Louis to get him motivated, but being Frenchies and being stubborn. But there's definitely, if you already have a dog, it's not over yet, you guys. There's definitely ways to research on what makes your dog tick. And once you figure that out and you can communicate with them on their level, life gets so much easier.
Also, too, when you're training, even if your dog isn't, say, praise motivated, like having a puppy party, even then when you're training and you have this yes, we did it, your level of excitement, it does rub off on the dog, even though if that's not their primary way of learning, let's say, it once you have a moment like that and you're like, yay, we did it, it does translate. Just because it's not the primary way they learn doesn't mean it won't work at all, as you go through the journey of knowing your dog and being excited about training and being there with them in the moment to have your successes and to have that joy of understanding each other and being together.
I think that's a really good point too, that different tasks and stuff like that we're asking our dogs could be different each time. Right now I'm training a dog to go pick up his mom's cell phone and bring it to her if she has an accident or falls or something. And that kind of training is not the most fun, reward-based type training because he has to be 100% all the time. But tricks are going to be totally different. You want those to be fun. Those are going to be treats and jumping up and down and praising. So variety for sure. I mean, not every dog for everything is going to be the exact same.
I was just thinking about my own dogs and thinking about Louis, and actually Louis is one of my easier dogs that I've had to train. And I think a lot of it is because of my relationship with him, having him from exactly when he was born and knowing him really well. But also he does, find a lot of joy in a lot of different things. Like he does like food, and he does like praise, and he does like fun, and he does like games. I had another dog in the past that I could not figure out what to motivate him. He didn't like food. He didn't care if you praised him. He was really challenging for me. And in the end, it was that liking to work and figuring out a puzzle. If I could make it a puzzle for him to figure out, then I could get him to do it. And so, but that's a really hard thing to figure out, you know. And if you need help to figure out what makes your dog tick, that's one of the reasons why we're here, because we've worked with a lot of dogs and have seen a lot of different things. And sometimes we have an insight to help you figure it out a little bit faster, so you don't have to go through a lot of frustration of feeling like you don't know what to do and your dog is really challenging and you're in this place where you're stuck, you know. That's, I think, one of the reasons why I really like working here is to help people have the joy with their dog that I have. And I think that's just like one little piece of what we do as dog trainers.
So that actually just reminds me of a funny story. My parents had this old dachshund that they got as a senior, and that was the most difficult dog to read and to train. He loved treats, but it was hard for him to associate them to working. It was more like, okay, I'm getting this treat and I'm the best and I'm going over here. And we got frustrated. Like, he would do stuff, but he just had this little dachshund attitude with him. But we found that what made him willing to work for us and to do the stuff we were asking him was to have a little agility course at the end. So we found that out by accident, that he loved jumping over things. And so we built little agility courses out of cereal boxes for this dachshund. And we would train. He would sit down, lay, roll over, and then agility. And that was how he became willing and he became more engaged, that we found out accidentally. And so, like, you never would think this little dachshund loved jumping over stuff, but that was how he clicked. And so get really creative.
Absolutely. And have fun with it.
Do you guys have any other things that you want to add?
I guess just sometimes it's really hard because dogs don't know English, and we as humans, it's our responsibility to learn dog. And what I mean by that is you have to find out what your dog is communicating to you, not the other way around, before you can teach him English. Like, you have to figure them out. So, but have fun with it. Be creative. And we're always here to help if you need ideas. Yeah.
I think just remember that you need to be willing. You need to be willing to help the dog. You need to be willing to train in different ways, and be willing to find the joy and the fun in what you're doing. Because if you're having fun and you're finding that connection, then the dog will be right with you.
Thank you for listening. If you want to know more about us and our services, please visit our website at www.wsk9co.com. And as always, we urge you to get out and train.